Nithyanandam. My name is Bodhanaa Nithyananda, and I'm the Chief Kothari of Bengaluru Aadheenam. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be introducing myself and how a girl from a small town in Michigan became a local leader of a global Hindu organization. So welcome. I've already just said a mouthful, so let me back up a little bit. My actual title is Chief Kothari Bodhanaa Nithyananda, and this is my Guru Paramanhamsa Nithyananda. I'm lucky enough today to be in India in the Bengaluru ashram, Bengaluru Aadheenam, with Swamiji and many other people attending the Nithyananda Yogam program, but I am living mostly permanently in Ohio. Coming from a small town in Michigan, you can even grow up and never see anybody of a different skin color or a different religion. And this was the case for me. I grew up in a small town called Hastings, but I had pretty intense curiosity about the world. And as I was reaching my late teens, one of my biggest desires was to go to University of Michigan, which was at that time called the hotbed of, you know, change, or whatever you want to call it, the end of the hippie era. But I had a feeling if I went to the University of Michigan, it would really open my doors and my eyes to what I was looking for. That, of course, was exactly right. So, coming from a family of 6 brothers and sisters, mom and dad, Catholic, when I got to the University of Michigan, one of the first classes that I took was a world religion class. And one of the first things that was introduced in the world religion class were the Eastern religions. And I felt like I finally found my home. I read about religions that had been beating in my heart, but I hadn't found the name for, the place for, the context for. So I quickly headed towards Buddhism, which seemed to fit a lot of what I was looking for, and graduated from college. Life went on. I'm not saying it was a high priority, but very soon after leaving college, in a series of interesting circumstances, I ended up at my first Zen session at the age of 20, where for a second time I felt like I found my home again. I like to sometimes think that my life has been like beads. Each of these beads was a small awakening. And when I put them all together in the chain of my life of who I am now, it all makes sense. But at the time it was this one little incident, or this incident, meeting this person, meeting that person, you know, falling into this Zen session. So anyway, this became part of my life. Then I moved. And I had a hard time again reconnecting or finding that spiritual seeking I was looking for. And I met my husband, Brian, and we have had 2 girls, having a very beautiful life. It was going along, I would say, more like a typical American life, but many observers would tell me, still tell me always, that our life was never typical, my husband's and mine and my girls. The choices that we made. Again, looking back, it seems like so many of the choices we made were already in alignment with the Vedic teachings, Swamiji's teachings. How we chose to have our first daughter, the practices I was doing at the time, the practices I continued doing after she was born fall so much into the realm of what the end pregnancy classes teach. How we chose to parent, how we chose to school our children at something called the Antioch School, where my husband teaches, is so closely aligned to Gurukul principles, minus the enlightened master or the guru. So anyway, all of these things were happening and we're having our life. And I just attended this event with a group of friends where a guru from India was visiting. And we'd been reading the Bhagavad Gita, and it had said we should find a guru. So we all went to this event at the Dayton Hindu temple, and there was Swamiji going around the temple 3 times in his orange robe, and I felt like I'd never seen anything like it, all the pomp and circumstance. And then he sat down and he took that seat like a throne. Again, I felt like I'd never seen anything like it. I was sitting in the front row. And then Swamiji went on to talk. He talked, I think it was 3 hours, maybe it was less, but in my memory it was 3 straight hours on the topic of suicide, which was a topic I was familiar with. And Swamiji was extremely serious, and I felt like 5,000 watt bulbs were shining on me, just shining on me, heating me up, bringing this all to the surface. The next day, Swamiji offered that we could take this LBP, another thing that's near and dear to my heart, Life Bliss Program. So I canceled all my appointments and I attended the LBP. At the end of the LBP, this beautiful woman, Prema, said, "How many of you think you'd like to do this?" I couldn't even stop my arm if I tried. My arm shot straight up. I said, "This is definitely what I'm doing. I'm teaching these courses." And so then within 2 months, I was in Palm Springs, California with Swamiji, learning to be his acharya, teaching. And right then the first Nithya Yoga teacher training was announced. And this had been a big passion of mine. I'd been teaching yoga for years and taking a Western style yoga teacher training. So for the first time ever, I was going to leave my girls, go across the world by myself to India, to the first Nithya Yoga teacher training, which Swamiji himself conducted. That was back in 2006. And that is literally when I found myself, when I found my home, myself. Since then, my family and I moved to be near the temple in Delaware, Ohio. And every passion that I've had has just been plugged into and expanded through the work that I do through this local Aadheenam or Nithyanandeshwara Hindu temple. For example, this passion for yoga was blended with a passion for prisoners. My own grandfather had been in prison during the Depression for stealing food. And somehow I really felt, I don't know, I grew up with this incompletion about him, about the bad name he got. There must be more to this story. Anyway, this whole thing of prisons was constantly attracting me. Once we moved to Delaware, I drove by this prison every day. And just how things work once you're in Swamiji's world, everything starts aligning. Like if I have a desire, it just starts aligning. So somehow I was in a conversation with a woman who knew the warden of the prison, because understand, it is not easy to get into a maximum security prison and teach. It's not easy at all. But I got an interview through a friend, and within 2 weeks I was already inside maximum security prison teaching yoga for the first time. And I did this for 2 years, volunteering, bringing Nithyananda Yoga to these women who, some of them had been in prison since age 18 and were on life sentences. They'll never go out. Yoga brought them so much solace, so much, it was the most rewarding yoga I have ever taught before to these women. It was their lifeblood, it was their breath. It was really literally the first thing they had that started completing them and what had happened to them. So that's just an example. Another example is, again, raising kids through Vedic principles, which just inherently already matched what I believed about how kids should be raised. Another passion that I have is wellness. And so at the Ohio Aadheenam, we happen to have all these people that deal with the wellness arts. And so there we can continue working and serving people through any of the modalities that we have. Of course, we all are initiated into Nithya spiritual healing, which does great wonders. But I have my own interest in Ayurveda, homeopathy, yoga therapy. So all of these passions have also been able to be plugged into and really just exploded since meeting Swamiji in 2006. So I hope this gives you a little taste of what I want to bring, what I want to share. I'd like to share some of the mystical experiences I had since an early age that, as I said, when lined up in a necklace, these beads, these little pieces of awakenings, oh my God, they all just point towards this final and beginning meeting with Swamiji. I'll just share one more before I end. I had a great passion for dance and tried out all sorts of what's called ethnic dances. I had done flamenco dancing, belly dancing, and finally I'd found East Indian dancing. Again, this was long before I found Swamiji. So I was driving to Columbus once a week for Odissi lessons. And I did this for, I think, almost 3 years. Anyway, my name started to get known as somebody who could judge these, there's a lot of Indian dance events. And so I was invited to judge an Indian dance event in Cincinnati, Ohio. I went to the event and judged it, and then afterwards I thought, let me go upstairs to a temple. I've never seen a temple before. What's it all about? I went upstairs, and there's a long line of what I would have called sculptures at the time. So I started in the middle, which has a giant crystal Om that was actually made in Italy. And I moved to my right, looking at each thing and coming near the end. When I got to the end, there was something that I felt I'd never seen before. The shape, at least, wasn't familiar, but my heart just exploded, and I started crying. I was looking at a Shiva Linga, but I had no name for it, nothing. I sat there sobbing and sobbing in front of all these people without any knowing why. And this little girl came up to me and tugged on my dress, and she said, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "I have no idea, but I have to know what that is." So she went and got her mom, and her mom tried to explain it to me. I couldn't comprehend anything, so I just finally had her write it down on a piece of paper. It was a 2-hour drive home. I drove home crying, and when I got home I started looking up this word Shiva Linga. And of course, that's been its own journey for the last 10 years. My love for Shiva, my love for this particular form. So anyway, that's one small example of the kind of awakenings I was continuously having since I was born. So before I end this first session, I'd like to express my gratitude to Swamiji, Paramahamsa Nithyananda, to my mom and dad for bringing me to this world and me choosing them so that I would be here today, for my husband Brian and my children, Asha and Saskia, for all of my friends and family and Sangha members around the world. I'm looking forward to sharing more with you. Tune in for next time. Nithyanandam.